Welcome to the Audacious OBM podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Woff, creator of OBM Academy and founder of Audacious Empires. Each week, my crew and I will explore all things building and scaling an exceptional OBM business. This podcast is here to share how you can charge premium prices, have clients lining up to work with you, and never have to work another weekend again. You can have a thriving OBM business working with the clients you want, when you want, and charging the price you want. It's time to banish mediocre and become the standout, sought after OBM you know you can be. Hello. Welcome to the next episode of the Audacious OBM. All right. Today is our last episode in my mini-series on pricing. And yes, I realized that I just context switched between we and my. Please forgive me. All right, so this episode is called Dear OBM Client, Please Pay Me. How to stop feeling like you're begging for money. Now, you might be thinking, what does this mean, Leanne? And essentially, it means how do we set our business up so that we don't run into situations where we feel like we're a charity or we are scared to talk about pricing or to follow up on unpaid bills. We don't ever want to be in a position where we've delivered our service. Hey, I've been your OBM for a month and I noticed that you haven't paid your bill yet. Hey, I've been your OBM for 2 months and I noticed that you haven't paid any of your bills yet. Hey, it's been 3 months and now I'm starting to get really worried and now I've got people chasing me to pay my bills because you haven't paid me. And it's getting really awkward. From the get-go, how can we put an end to that cycle? Let's stop the cycle before it even starts. Now, a lot of this will have to do with money mindset and how we feel about money and our money stories. And there are so many different people you can go to learn about the mindset behind money. But I just want to give you a few tips and hopefully some things that you can put in place that will quickly change your trajectory with money. So the first one is the thought. So when we come to talking about pricing and money and how much we're going to charge in our business, our thought usually, not for everyone, but a lot of the time, is something like, or apprehension, or, I'm going to have to talk about money next, or how do I tell them how much it's going to cost? So how can we move away from that? Because with that thought becomes more thoughts and comes feelings, and feelings of being uncomfortable or avoidance. So we want to change that. And I noticed that that's how I felt talking about pricing a few years ago. And then I thought, but what if I loved pricing? What if I loved talking about money? And that's what I tested. I pretended that I loved talking about money. Now, not in a conceited way, but I remember having a conversation with a new lead and we chatted about all the things we were going to do and I was really excited about it. And then I thought, okay, we're going to have to talk about money. And so I said to this client, hey, I guess we should have the money conversation. And they replied with, oh, I love talking about money. And all of a sudden I went, oh. And and I felt relief. Let's just talk about money like it's a thing. And we did. We set the price, we moved on, did the job, it went fantastic. And so from then on, I've made that my premise. I love talking about money. They love talking about money. It's just a conversation, a box we have to tick. And so it gives me all of the exciting emotions instead of all the scary ones. So we want to change our perception a little bit. And we want to change the feel of conversations to joy. Let's have some joy when we're talking about money, because what we're talking about is solving a problem for someone. And hey, I really want to do that for you. So I know creating this podcast, now I was so nervous. I'm still nervous. But if I compare my nerves to, but what if something I say actually helps someone else? It trumps it every time. I like to help people. And if I have to get over my insecurities to do that, then that's what I have to do. It's the same with money. Let's bring that I love money. Money brings joy because money helps people. And so see if you can change that emotion a little bit just by flipping it on its head. Every time we get that icky feeling, no, I love talking about money. They love talking about money. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. See what it does. I dare you. The next thing is the process. So when we were talking about bringing joy into the conversation, we were talking about increasing the emotion around that, increasing the feeling. With the process, the aim here is actually to do the opposite. It's to decrease the emotion. So sometimes we feel safer when we have a process in place and we know exactly what's coming and what we have to do. It makes us feel safe and secure and confident. So to help with stop feeling like you're begging, let's put a process in place so we know when, how, what increases are going to look like, and start having those conversations. Okay, when I get a new lead, it's at this point that we start to talk about money. This is how my pricing works. This is when you'll get charged. This is when we'll start looking at increasing that price or decreasing that price if it's, based on scope, and just explain it. Do the work beforehand so that you have a process, because then it's just a matter of moving through that. And we're OBMs, right? So we're good at this. Pretend that you are doing this for one of your clients. What would it look like? Now go and do it for you. You can totally do it. You've got this. And then see how that impacts the experience you have with leads and clients when talking about money. And just by being prepared, you're going to eliminate a lot of that hesitancy or people not paying their bills and having to chase people and feel like you're begging. The more prepared you are and the more straight up you are with people about what to expect and how it works, they can be prepared. And that's how we get ahead of that cycle of we're 3 months in and I haven't seen $1. But let's just stop it before it starts. Okay, then let's look at knowing where your pricing sits in the market and what that means. There are people who structure themselves as, I'm going to charge a really low amount and I'm going to sell a lot of them. And then it's going to be really easy. I can sell that easily because it's cheap and because I don't feel like I have to justify the amount that this is going to cost someone. If you were selling a house for $2, I'm sure you would have millions of people wanting to buy that. But unfortunately, you don't have a million houses to sell for $2. You would just be broke and have a lot of angry customers. Then the opposite is to price really high and have less customers and really show the value that you are giving them. So you're going to sit somewhere between the bottom and the top. We all do. And it's important that you know where in the market you are, because you can start to measure how much you're going to have to coach this sale. How much anchoring do you have to do of this price to explain the value of it? Because something that we look at when we're looking at sales pages, for example, if you have something that is quite cheap and you have a sales page that's 1,000 miles long and talks about hundreds and hundreds of different benefits that this offer has, by the time we're in the third paragraph, we're going, okay, you're telling me it's $4, but it's got 1,000 benefits. What's the catch? All of a sudden, I'm thinking this is too good to be true. And what are you hiding from me? So it's really knowing where you sit and what the expectation is of people and how they're going to perceive that offer, to how much information you give them and when you give them the information. Simply knowing that your price is in the premium range or the high-end range means that you know that type of client is probably going to want to know a little bit more detail on how it all works, because they want to make sure they're making a good decision, a wise decision, and that's a great thing. Whereas if you were selling a downloadable that was a no-brainer, you don't have to do all of that. And people don't really want you to. They just want to give you the money quickly. It's a quick transaction. Otherwise, you end up undoing the sale, which is not what we want either. So another way to move away from begging people to pay you is to give them the information they need at the level that they need it from the get-go. Another thing we need to do is look for red flags. If we're having conversations that are too pointed, or asking if there are late fees, or talking about how they haven't launched anything yet, but they're sure it's going to be really successful, and how long till they see ROI, and are you going to help them increase sales? As an OBM, if I was sitting there hearing these kinds of things, I would think, okay, what kind of person am I talking to? Because different people require different questions answered, detail, the way they think is different. But if it sounded like a little bit of an alarm, I would automatically put in place things to prevent this being a risk to me. And that would be we don't start anything until we're paid first. Then we do it. There's all different ways you can approach it. But what I'm saying is you don't have to take every job that lands in your lap, and you don't have to assume every person is in the most amazing financial position. So just make sure you put in place some things to prevent there being overdue outstanding invoices for people that potentially can never pay them. Then you won't have to beg for money. It'll always be paid at the start. It's a good feeling, right? Okay, then 2 more things to go. 1, use the pricing for pacifiers theory. Now, yes, I 100% made up this theory, and it's something that I just started saying. And you might be kind of going, okay, Leanne, what the heck? So I know, now I have had many, many little people in my time, which means I have had many, many little people awake and crying in the middle of the night. And then I've also been awake and crying in the middle of the night because I'm tired or begging them to go back to sleep. It's awful when you're half asleep and all you want to do is go back to sleep, and you can't because you have to soothe this poor little cute child. Now, I have always been a fan of the pacifier. So my kids all had dummies, and one of them in particular had many, many dummies. she had a box full of pacifiers. And the reason for that is we kept losing them. And very quickly did I decide that not being able to find a pacifier was certainly not a problem that I wanted in my life. And it got to the point where one night in the middle of the night, she's crying and I can't find a pacifier. And I'm running around and I'm turning all the lights on and I'm looking everywhere for this pacifier like it is gold. And then thinking, all right, maybe I'm going to have to find a shop that's open 24 hours a day. And I wish there was someone that would just come to my house and give me a dummy. That's all I want from life. And you go to the shop and you pay $4 for a pacifier. But in that moment, man, I would have paid hundreds, and I'm not even joking. If someone would bring me a pacifier and I could go to sleep and she could go to sleep and life would be better again, it's worth so much money to me. More than the $4 of waiting until morning and going to the shop. So how can we apply this to business? Essentially, it's more about knowing who you're selling to. Knowing what it is that is really, really important to your clients and pricing based on that, including that in your service. Because I tell you, someone who said to me, oh, if you just wait until morning, you can get it for $4. Or you can pay me $200 right now and I'll bring it to you. I'm skipping the $4 thing. I did not want a cheap thing right then. And I wouldn't have felt ripped off. I wouldn't have been complaining. I just would have been so happy that someone could actually help me when I needed help. And if we can set up our services so that whatever we're doing is providing that level of value and that level of benefit, you can charge more and it's totally worth it. And people will happily pay you instead of you constantly asking. It'll just be, please, please take my money. I need help. And that's absolutely where we want to be. Win-win for everybody. And then the last thing, now this is really crucial for if you want to stop feeling like a beggar and if you want to stop chasing money or chasing invoices or feeling concerned about having money conversations, the key here is to do what you said you were going to do. Now, it seems obvious, but a lot of the time we say one thing and what we do is another, or something happens and the outcome gets a little bit skewed. And that's not nice for anybody. But if we can know what we're selling and then deliver what we're selling every time or above expectation, you'll find clients are happy to pay their invoices. They're happy to be contributing to you like you contribute to them. And if there is a cash flow situation, which that just happens in life and in business, sometimes there's lots of cash, sometimes there's not. And then you wait a week and all of a sudden there's lots again. It's just the way cash flow works. But if you find we're in one of the decreases in cash flow situation and you are persistently doing what you say you're going to do and delivering over and above, you're going to be one of the first people that gets their invoices paid. Because that's the way that your clients can honor you back. And if that's what's happening, you've got people who are happy to pay you and people who know that the second that the funds land in their account, you're who they're going to, then you're not going to be begging for any money. You've built a cycle where the bills get paid themselves. And that's what we want to happen. And just to be clear, I'm not saying to let client invoices pile up and to just keep working in hope that someone's going to pay them. That's not really wise. But I'm saying if you can create a really great experience and show that you're trustworthy and keep giving your clients the benefit that you said you're going to give them, you're going to have happier clients who want to pay you and for there to be less defaults and overdue invoices. So that's my little thought on how to stop being a beggar for money and to feel confident when talking about money and pricing instead of feeling scared or icky. We want a win-win for everybody, every time. If you found any of this helpful, if you're going to go and implement any of this, please let us know. I would love for this to be a two-way conversation. Have a great week, guys. See you next week. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Audacious OBM. We hope this episode has helped you move forward in your journey to being a standout and sought after OBM. If you enjoyed the episode, take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help other OBMs just like you. If you're interested in learning more about OBM Academy and all that it offers, head over to audaciousempires.com to get all the juicy details. We'll be back next week.